Hi everybody, it's Amy, and I'm here doing something a little bit different. This is not a painting workshop, but what it is all about flowers. So it's not long, this is free, and what I thought might be of interest to you is to see how I put flowers together when I'm going to paint them, because, you know, aside from learning how to paint, there's actually some learning how to arrange. I don't want you to arrange just like I do and assuming that's the way to do it. But there are some tips and tricks to making a bouquet that is more interesting to paint. So let's take a look here. These are gonna be in front of my face here for a little bit. I've got a nice big mixed bouquet here with a nice, and I like a glass vase because I enjoy painting transparency, and it's a nice shape. But you know, things are pretty spread out in this, and I would have kind of a hard time painting this because there's so much green right here and stem work as well as down here, and then all the color is evenly at the top, and there's also a lot of color. So I'm going to make a short one for you. This painting a nice big bouquet is great, but let's start off with a smaller. This is one of my favorite vases, you know, just a round transparent vase. And what I do is I buy often mixed bouquets, and but they often have a color theme to them. So I've got newspaper here because these are of course all wet. So what I like to do is I trim and just start to fit. And I like to have them drape over. And so there's a little green here. This might even still be too much, but I like to put them in and see where things are. So let's just, I'm gonna just start with a uniform hot pink. These are beautiful, and I keep the greenery. You know that sometimes there's a place for it. There's a place for it in the setup. And I cut an angle, and I trim because I like to see the stems. When I'm painting, I find they're almost as much fun. And trim, so you know this is empty down here. I actually might even make that a little shorter. So it's making a nice mass here. This is even for this particular vase, for my taste, it's even just a little bit too tall. And I would put a little bit more water in here. Actually, I've got my water here. Let's just do that. In my paintings, you may have noticed sometimes there's a water line, other times there's not. It just depends on what the painting requires. Sometimes I don't need that information in there, so I just don't include it. Let's see. Still a little too tall over here for my liking. So, you know, I never come home from the store or my garden with flowers and then just plunk them in a vase and paint. I always do some arranging, and I arrange based on how I like to paint. And so I like that there's always some green in the middle that, you know, with lighting, it'll be really nice and deep in here. And then some cascading flowers that are usually of the same family. And then what I do is just put a couple of accent flowers in here. And I'm thinking, I've got these dianthus or carnation, and they're kind of creamy orange. And there's one more. See, I really sometimes just take stuff away. It also keeps the water cleaner for longer. Believe it or not, that makes a difference. And then I just begin to arrange, and I look at my flowers. You know, I look at them all around. You know, I see where, you know, what do I like in terms of the stem work. what do I like in terms of the massing and where these accent colors are. I usually keep my bouquets, and if they're full color, I usually keep them to 2 or 3 colors, no more than that. Just gets to be, for me, a little too busy. So I'm going to do here, take a little bit more, the green, stick it right in here, just for some massing. I'm going to just split this. And I'm just trying to get them, I like when the flowers can tilt over to the side, you know, versus everybody being up in the same height. So that's not so bad. See how it just has the two, and they're not dissimilar from each other, the dianthus and the mini roses. You know, this has got the frillier, you know, papery kind of petals, but they're harmonious, and I like how I've got that hottish pink here, and then combined with a similar family of being a creamy orange. So there's some red in this and some red in this, but clearly different, and that there's distinctive stem work here. So this would be one way that I would arrange. I'm going to show you another thing that I do with little vases. This is kind of a fun shape. I like that it has a little indentation. That can be fun to paint, and then it goes in and out and in and out. And what I often do is take, if I have here, this is I'm going to actually paint. I'm going to paint these today. This is a white bouquet. These are Lisianthus, and then I have some tulips. But when I opened up the package, as I'm sure you all know, there's always one or two that break, of course, right? But that's okay, because what I do is I just cut them. And well, it's a little too short here, but I've got, don't worry, because I have another broken one. I have to be more careful when I'm buying these. So you see this one's already broken. I'm gonna cut it longer than that. I just learned my lesson on the first one. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of tulip greenery. And this might be a really nice solo flower arrangement, you know, just uniform color, maybe with a coolish blue-gray background or something, or all white, you know, white, making white on white. So really simple. And but I will say, you know, sometimes people will think go simple when they're starting to do, they want to do some flower painting, so they make their flower arrangements really, really simple. But you need to have enough to keep yourself engaged as a painter, okay? So this would be a little simple bouquet. It's cute. And then let's look at this. I just shoved these in here today. These were some Lisianthus that I painted the other day, so they're a little bit the worse for wear. I'm going to stick those in the middle. The one thing I did with this vase, and people often don't do this, is that they don't change their water and clean their vase in between uses. And it's really important to do that, because that faded look and kind of blurry look in flower paint is pretty ugly. And you don't see the greenery down here, so it's just not as much fun. It's not as much fun to paint. So I'm stripping and taking off some of the stem work, because really, as I look at these flowers, what was I thinking? These are just not in very good shape. I'm going to put these sort of around the edges. Did you know that the tulip is the one flower that will continue to grow after it's been cut? It's true. I always wondered why. I would paint tulips one day, and then I would come down the next day, and they would be all crazy in my setup. You know, they would have gone everywhere. Well, I read that somewhere, and then I started to look at my flowers, and that not only were they moving around a lot overnight, they actually grew. You know, I was able to see that the the size of the tulips doesn't change, it's the stem. And so this might make, you know, for a painting, this might make a really elegant, part of a very elegant flower painting. You know, and as I'm arranging here, I'm just imagining, you know, colors that I might put with it in the background. And again, it could be some variety of white on white, you know, a meditation of warm and cool colors, which I'm going to do, I'll do a class on that here. And it also could be, again, maybe an icy blue background, or really putting it with a window, with a winter landscape. I guess depends where I live in southern Maine, so you definitely have winter here. And sometimes there's a faded yellow green through my windows from the grass, and other times, you know, it's snow out there, and you'll get really beautiful blues and violets in the shadows of the snowbanks. So, all right, oops, here's one little tiny one. See what a mess. And you can see how much is left over here, this big pile of stuff, but why do I want that? I don't want that in my bouquet. Be just a mess down here, okay? So there's some white up here. You can see the color variation. You get a little work from the leaves and the tulips, even some curl over here, you know. And then in the stems, you got greenery up here, stem work down here. Like I wouldn't paint it from this direction. That looks kind of weird. That's not so bad. And I also might look down at it a little bit. See a slight bird's eye view, stand up and paint. So that's a white bouquet. And let's do one more, just because I've got this big vase here, and I just completed a whole series of white paintings using vases like this. This was one of them that was in there. So, you know, what I do is I kind of bunch them together and imagine what would it look like if they were, I mean, this is a vase that fans out, so I know it's going to make my flowers fall out, right? But if I cut this shorter, they're going to fall out, but I'm going to see these big blooms here. So I'm just going to make sort of a uniform decision and cut. Excuse me if I'm making faces. I'm not going to get through that one. That's going to have to be by hand. I have chrysanthemum in here, sunflowers, and Gerber daisies. And then there's some, you know, filler flowers that the grocery store uses. So their flower bouquets look bigger. All right, let's put that out. That can be kind of pretty. I've left those in sometimes. I actually, you know, the plastic that comes in Gerber daisies, I do leave these in here. I don't paint them, but I leave them in because they do help it's such a top heavy flower that it helps hold them in place. And anytime you have a sunflower in your bouquet, you want to make sure you clean your glass, change your water all the time, because they make the water filthy, and it happens very fast. Sometimes the same day. Okay, so would I paint this? No. Just leans out too much for me. And also sometimes with sunflowers, if they're too tall, they really just flop over, and all you see is all you ever see is the greenery, you know, because the head is down because it's so heavy. So you always have to keep that in mind. Chrysanthemum can get a little funky in the vases as well. This is getting better. This is, again, it's close to here, but I like how it masses, you know, I like how it masses, and it's dark here. And it doesn't have an abundance of stem work above the lip. Now, I don't think I would, you know, there's no place that'll look weird. There's no place that I'm going to be able to put that. If I really cut it down, maybe. Now, what I might do with this is just bunch some. This might be nice in the center to help. These might actually help hold the flowers in place and create a little bit of that the dark greenery I was talking about. And that is my dog snoring there. I've got to get him up. This is, you're really hearing a home demonstration. Hang on. Okay, come on, come on. All right, buddy. Yep, that's him. He's all 22 pounds of him. He's a Boston Terrier. Maybe I'll show him to you sometime. All right. There, that's not bad. Now all that greenery is going to help hold these flowers in space. And you know, whenever I arrange, I think you just do it the same all the time. But I do think that people have a sensibility for how they like to see things, and this might not be your sensibility, but I like how I like when flowers are close to the vase lip. I like how it makes them cascade, but they're still supported. I like the greenery in here to darken regions depending on the light. You know, and I can turn this around and I can get a lot of different views. Like that. You can see the whole thing right here. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Okay. And here is the roses with the carnation. Dianthus. Here's the meditation on tiny and white, super sweet. This would be sweet in like a little 8x8 paintings. And hang on, come here. Oh. I'm gonna show you my dog because he's just palling around here with me. This is Lefty. Okay, hang on a second. Yep, and then elegant white Lisianthus and tulips. So I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to start to film some videos now around painting with limited color and using temperature, warms and cools to make a difference. And then I'll do some with some riotous color, you know, which is good. Right now it's winter for me in Elliott, Maine, and I'm looking for some color variety. So thanks for joining me, and I hope I get to see you later.